Welcome to Ministry in Motion, where we explore best practices for your ministry in the 21st century. I'm Derek Morris.
And I'm Anthony Kent. And whether you're a pastor, a local leader within your church, whether you're involved in ministry, Ministry in Motion is for you, and we're delighted that you've joined us.
You know, our topic today is one that would interest you as a father with two teenage daughters, listening to young people. How do we help young people within the community of faith to feel valued, to feel like they belong?
Yeah, and to have a place and to have a voice. This is a very important topic, Derek. And who's our guest that's going to lead us?
Our guest today is Dr. Jan Paulsen, who is a leader well known for loving young people and caring about the young people within the community of faith. So I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Terrific. And he's had a long history of actually being in dialogue with young people, hasn't he?
That's right. A television program, Let's Talk, and now a new book, Let's Talk, learning to hear what young people have to say and building bridges. So it's going to be a great conversation.
I'm looking forward to it.
And whether you've got lots of young people in your church or you'd like to have lots of young people, perhaps you have some who've wandered away and you want to learn how to build a bridge to bring them back. We have some insights that will bless your life. So stay tuned for more Ministry in Motion. Welcome back to Ministry in Motion. Our topic today, listening to young people. And our guest, Dr. Jan Paulsen. It's good to be with you again.
Thank you, and good to be back here on the program.
Now, you have a reputation as a leader within the church, as someone who listens to young people. You have experience even as a father, right? You have children of your own.
I do. I have 3 children and 3 grandchildren.
But during your time as the world leader of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, you took some valuable time. A series of meetings. Talk to me about the meetings that you had with young people.
Well, over a period of 6 or 7 years, we had a number of live television programs called Let's Talk. There were 30 of them in all. They were unscripted, live, done in every part of the world field. So we had young people, young adults, young professionals from every culture around the world taking part in these conversations. One of the amazing things about this, you know, young people, so many questions that comments go through their minds, and some of them are frivolous, yeah, but there is also a set of core questions which are very, very serious and are big questions that are important for the church. And I found that going around the world doing these, there was a set of questions, issues, which would always come up wherever we were. Issues having to do with standards, having to do with relevance of the church, having to do with music and social life, having to do with marriage, with, yes, women in ministry and service, having to do with homosexuality. I mean, they were not afraid of dealing with issues, big issues.
And you not only had these programs, by the way, I went on to the internet and Googled Let's Talk and put your name, and YouTube videos came up from Oslo and different places. So these have been captured. You've also brought the learnings from that series of meetings into a book called Let's Talk.
So what we did was decided to publish. And my primary reason for this, well, there were 2 reasons for it. Published in a book called Let's Talk, taking the setting of these big issues. We isolated a dozen of the large topics which came up consistently around the world. And in the first 2-3 pages of each chapter are the verbatim statements or questions by the youth. You know, we have it on tape, we have it on the website, we have it there. So we can quote exactly what they... So we've started each chapter with the young men and women of the church saying exactly what they say on this. That's hard reading, some of that. They are not bashful in making their point. But I wanted to give, that's one of the reasons I wanted to give continuity to the voice of the young in our church. After all, they are 50% of our church. And yeah, sometimes we speak of them as the church tomorrow. Sometimes I wonder if we speak of them as though they are the church tomorrow and may they forever stay tomorrow. You know,
rather than leaders of today.
Exactly,
right.
Coming into it today. So I wanted to do that. Secondly, I mean, after we've taken the opening of each chapter, their descriptions, I try then to make my comments on both in answer to what they have said and some recommendations for the church.
And would your target audience be those young people and young people like them, or church leaders, or both? Who are you hoping to reach?
All.
Everybody.
Well, this is the second reason why I did it. I didn't want the book just to be a book you read and put away somewhere. But let the book itself have an interactive function in the local church. And therefore, at the end of each chapter, we have a page of conversation teasers. I would ideally like to see the church, young people and the older ones, take it, read it. Not so much to find the final answer, but to care enough and be stirred enough to want to discuss these things and make a conversation of it. My great desire is that, it would really make my day if this book could be an instrument in cross-generational conversation in our church, because there is not enough of that taking place.
So that book would be available. We'll link that on our website at ministryinmotion.tv so that people may want to read.
Yes.
Let's Talk.
Yes.
It's building bridges, cross-generational, intergenerational conversations.
Yep.
Before we talk about some of those 12 key points that came out of your conversations, let's talk about why it's important to listen to young people. Why is it so important? I mean, why don't we just ask them to sit quiet and behave?
But who are they? I mean, really, let's be honest. Who are the young people? They are the church. It's the church talking to the church. It's not a group out there somewhere talking inwardly to the church. No, these are inside our church. And I'll tell you, one of the things that struck me time and again as I talk with the young people is, yes, they may raise some difficult questions, but they care profoundly for the church. They could have walked away. They chose not to. Why? Because this is the home they want to have. They care for the church. But they are sometimes frustrated, sometimes angry. Sometimes they want to experiment and try out a few things. They want to bring newness in. And some of us who are not as young as we once were may feel, go easy now. You know, we have older habits and older tastes and traditions. But really, a family is a family of young and old. They don't think all alike, but they are family. They love each other. They respect each other. They will listen to each other.
So we take time to listen to our young people because they're part of the family?
Absolutely.
Because they matter?
Yeah.
And because if we don't talk, we wander apart.
You better believe it. If we will not have them and listen to them now, they won't be here tomorrow. They're gone.
Well, after the break, we want to talk about some of these crucial issues that emerge from global conversation with young people. Perhaps you're thinking of some young people in your congregation or maybe even in your family. You're saying, I want to hear what these issues are. In fact, I want to learn how to listen to young people, to include them in the family of faith. So this is an important topic. We'll have more on learning to listen to young people right after the break. Welcome back to Ministry in Motion. Our topic today, listening to young people, and our guest, Dr. Jan Paulsen. Dr. Paulsen, we've talked about the fact that young people are an integral part of the church, and if we don't listen to them, we'll go different paths. You've taken some valuable time as a leader of our world church, and now in your retirement, still involved in these important dialogues. You've just published a book called Let's Talk with Pacific Press. What are some of the key issues If we were listening, or as we listen carefully to young people, what are some key issues that we'll hear?
Well, I think what many of the young people long for and look for is some trust. They want those of us who are older in the church to trust them more. And to show that trust by giving them roles that are creative. You know, there's so much skill, so much energy, so many spiritual gifts, real spiritual gifts that are given to these young people. Young people is quite a group, you know, from their teens until the late 20s, early 30s. It's quite a category, from students to young professionals. And they stay with the church and walk with the church because they have chosen this as their home. But they would like to function. They would like to be creatively involved. I think it would be a wonderful idea if they were sort of let loose more generously and frequently in our church. I think one suggestion I made at one point was, what would happen if your church took an action? It would have to be the church. I mean, it couldn't come from anywhere else. If your local congregation took an action that for the next 2 years, no one will be a selected elder who's over 35 years of age.
What would happen?
Yeah.
I like your expression, let loose.
Yes,
in some ways, maybe older leaders are afraid. Are they afraid of what might happen to the church?
Maybe they are. But I think it is not so much fear as it is a sense they don't know enough. They don't have the experience. They don't have the wisdom. We have this wisdom that we have accumulated that they don't have. It's more that kind of a sentiment which I think is there. But you know, I have had my day. Those of us who are older, we have had our opportunities. These young people, we don't want them to walk away. We want them. They are God's children. They are my children. I want them to stay with the church. But I've got to give them a good reason to stay. I've got to give them a sense of engagement so that they can be creatively involved in shaping the church. Yes, some things will be different from what I have been used to. So what? What I have been used to was also different from what my parents or grandparents had. So there's nothing stands still. Everything is creatively in motion, and that's important. It is creatively in motion. It is in process of becoming. And that is normal. That's life. Let's not be afraid of that. Young people want us to be open to that. I sense also among them, I know, forgive me, Derek, for just simply talking so much about this, but you open a subject which...
It's important.
There is no end to what I can say.
I'm still thinking what it would be like, even in the church that I now attend, if for the next 2 years, no elder would be asked to serve who was over 35. That could bring about a freshness that would perhaps cause some of the older leaders to be much in prayer, but to see what God might do.
It is good. I think it is good that we just simply learn to function in this manner. Many of our young people are also frustrated by a sense they have that they feel suspect. You know, if they ask a question, they are being thought of as being difficult, critical and difficult. And they feel, well, as somebody said to me, must I park my brain outside the church before I'm allowed to go in? And obviously not. So we need to just simply find a way by which we can legitimize each other's presence and release of energies.
Are there places as you've traveled where you've seen that? Have you seen that modeled where there are communities that are really allowing young people to lead?
I have. I have seen places. Amazingly, I just came this past weekend from one church in Europe. The church was filled.
Which in itself is a wonderful thing.
It is a wonderful thing. I would venture to say that 90% of them were under 30 years of age. Now, granted, I was told afterwards that this is, of course, a university city, and many of them were students. But that's wonderful. Wonderful that you can have a church where such a large number of them are young people. Because I think that in terms of the mission of the church, if they're going to reach out into the community and reach other young people in the community, they are the best communicators of the hope. They are best able to say, look, this is what I value about my church.
And in that church where 90% were under 30 or so, were the leaders also young people?
Yeah, the pastor was an older man, but that is, he was approaching my age. but
other leaders were young people.
Yes, they were. They were there. But also this pastor, in his presentation, it was crisp, it was right to the point, and he was dealing with issues which young people could respond to and sense. He I think, had learned by the dynamics of his congregation. And he was very biblical in what he presented. I think it's important also to remember our young people want to hear a word from Christ. They want to hear the Lord speak in the church. So they are not looking for entertainment. They're not looking for the clippings from the newspapers. They are looking to hear a word from the Lord, and the Bible is important for them.
We'll talk more about that after the break. If you've learned one lesson, it's that young people want to be trusted. They're willing to sacrifice. They're willing to make a difference. But we need to trust them. And we'll come back after the break wanting to hear a word from Christ. Whether you're an older leader or a younger leader, God has a message He wants you to share. So these are vital topics as we talk about listening to young people. We'll be right back after the break with more Ministry in Motion. Welcome back to Ministry in Motion. Our topic today, listening to young people, and our guest, Dr. Jan Paulsen. Dr. Paulsen, I've been inspired by listening to you challenge us to trust our young people, to release them. You talked about letting them loose. Yes. I guess a little risk involved, and seeing God work. You also talked about the fact that young people really do want to hear a word from Christ. Right. Let's talk about that.
Yes. They are not coming to the church to find entertainment. They're very, very serious about the church, serious about their faith in Christ. They want to be loyal to Him. They made that choice.
That's why they're still here.
Exactly, precisely. They want to be loyal to Him, and they would like to express that loyalty, both within the church, in their engagement there, and in the witness they carry to share with the people outside. So they are very sensitive to if they see things are not quite right with the church, if they feel that the church is somehow compromising her integrity. Have the issues that have to do with freedom. Frankly, I've got to say this, issues having to do with the role of women. There are many young people who feel embarrassed about, how do I tell my mate at work that we have this kind of a church that, it's hard for them. We just have to understand that it matters to them that they can go to their workplace or to their university or whatever they are and share with their secular colleagues the kind of community we represent.
They're looking for that clear message from the word integrity.
Yes,
now, you also mentioned they're looking for freedom to be able to ask questions?
Yes. We shouldn't really be troubled by the fact that they will ask difficult questions. They will. It lies in their nature. And I've discovered in my conversations with them, I don't always have the answer, and they're okay with that. That's fine. It is more the dynamics of conversation and the honesty, integrity of conversation that is valued than it is a set of answers. Yes, obviously, if you cannot answer any of their challenges, you've got a problem. But it is the desire to engage in conversation with leadership of the church, which is so great.
Now, one of the concerns of young people who are still active in church is the fact that many of their former classmates, colleagues are no longer involved with church. How do you respond when they say, what can we do to stop that, hemorrhage?
I ask them, they will pose questions, and I will pose questions to them. I would ask them, why did they go? What happened to your friend? Well, they were, so you will hear some reasons. And I will ask them, I will challenge them, and I will say, did you take time to talk to him? Did you visit with these people, your friends? And you know, you can say that. And more than once, they have said, well, probably not as I should. And that, I think, is disarmingly honest, because they are better representatives, ambassadors for Christ to their peers than I could be. So we have a mission to reach youth outside our church. I think our youth, our young adults, are our best ambassadors for Christ.
So you're not only giving them permission to ask difficult questions, but you're also willing to ask some difficult questions of them.
And they are okay about that. Sure they are.
That's that healthy conversation that you've been talking about.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there are some leaders watching and saying, I've ignored the young people, they've gone away.
Yeah.
It seems like it's too late, our church is dying. Is there any hope?
Oh, there is. Look, it is never too late. And if you know of some young people in your community that have drifted away, try to reach them. Try to reach out for them. In your contact with young people, just show the loving generosity that Christ has shown me, us personally. If he was looking for a perfect person, he would never come to me. So let us not expect of the young people who are in the process of growing and maturing in Christ, expect of them more than is natural in a way. And at the same time, give them an affirmation. Let them know that they have dignity, they have freedom, they will have my support. If they make mistakes, I will not kick them, I will help them get back on their feet again.
You know, I'm reminded of a young lady who said, take my name off of the books, I don't want to be a part of the church. And I said, well, let's have a few months, let's pray and talk. And 6 months later she said, I'm so glad you didn't take my name off of the church books. Maybe sometimes young people just need to know that they're loved, cared for, valued, even with the struggles that they're going through.
One of the most important things is that you talk to them. It has become so clear to me that the two elements which are missing, which they feel most are missing, one is conversation, and two is trust. The lack of conversation and the lack of trust is what probably are the greatest needs of our young people in the church.
Dr. Paulsen, thanks so much for joining us for Ministry in Motion. And I pray that you've been blessed as you've listened to some wise counsel about listening to young people. I'm still imagining what it would be like if my church had elders all under 35 and we let them loose with the passion they have for God. If you're joining us for Ministry in Motion today and you're not aware of this valuable resource, Ministry, we would like to ask you to go to our website at ministryinmotion.tv. You may be eligible for a complimentary subscription. If you're serving as a pastor in a local church, tell us about your congregation, tell us about your ministry, and we'd love to consider you for a complimentary subscription to Ministry. At our website, ministryinmotion.tv, there are also many other resources. You can watch this program again. Tell your friends to go to the website if they'd like to learn how to listen to young people, some valuable insights, many other resources that you can share. Those conversations that Dr. Paulsen talked about today that can help us to grow as a community of faith and in our relationship with God. Thanks so much for joining us on Ministry in Motion. May God bless you in your ministry for Him.